Hey, fifth grade, welcome back. We have been talking about compliments. What are the different kinds of compliments that we've talked about? Compliments are sentence completers. So we talked about things that make a sentence complete. Things like direct objects and indirect objects. Things that answer the question, what, after the action verb. Or things that answer the question, to whom, about the direct object. Well, now we're going to look at another kind of sentence completer. We have sometimes words that rename the subject. Instead of answering questions about the verb, they describe the subject. You can have a predicate nominative. A predicate nominative is a noun or pronoun that follows a linking verb and renames the subject. What kind of verb does a predicate nominative follow? Linking verbs. They link things together. This renames the subject. It links things together. It is not an action, not something that you're doing. Most sentences, it'll be something like is or was, but looking for linking verbs, not actions. Well, the easiest way to think about it is to look at it in a whole sentence. Robert is my cousin. Robert is my cousin is our sentence. What's our subject? Robert. Robert is my cousin. Is Robert doing any kind of action in this sentence? No, he's just existing. He is my cousin. So it's just a state of being normally. But in this case, it's linking the two parts together. So Robert is, it's linked to the rest of the sentence, my cousin. Cousin is describing Robert. So cousin in this case is our predicate nominative, because a predicate nominative always follows what? Always follows a linking verb, and it always describes or renames, goes back to that subject. Well, how do we check and see if this is right? How do we check and make sure that we've got all the parts correct and we know that it's a linking verb and a real predicate nominative? One way that you can check is to write your sentence backwards. Let me show you what I mean. Instead of saying Robert is my cousin, I would say my cousin is Robert. Does it still make sense? My cousin is Robert, or Robert is my cousin. Both of those make sense. I know that I do have a noun here that is describing my subject. It's renaming my subject. Robert is renaming cousin in this sentence. Cousin is renaming Robert in my other sentence. Both of these are right. So in this case, I know that it's right. I can check that. When you're going through your sentences, you don't really have to rewrite them by hand to look at them and see if they're the same. Try saying it backwards. Try replacing your predicate nominative with your subject. Switch those around and say your sentence again. That's how you can check on your work. That'll help you to identify it on different sentences. Let's look at another one. Charles Lindbergh was a great flyer. Charles Lindbergh was a great flyer. Okay, what is our subject? Charles Lindbergh. So Charles Lindbergh, both words are our subject in this case. That's our subject. Now, do we have an action happening? He's flying. No. What's it say? Was. Was is normally a state of being verb, but in this case, it's linking the parts of the sentence together. Charles Lindbergh was a great flyer. Great flyer is renaming Charles Lindbergh. So right here, we have our linking verb, was. And now out of all of this, is A describing Charles Lindbergh? No, A is describing flyer. What about great? Well, he was great, but he was a great flyer. Great describes flyer. So flyer is renaming Charles Lindbergh. So flyer is actually our predicate nominative in this case. Charles Lindbergh was flyer. Flyer was Charles Lindbergh. Does it make sense? Yeah. So we've got this one right. What about Ralph Waldo Emerson was a poet? Ralph Waldo Emerson, that's a long name, but all three of those are the same person. Ralph Waldo Emerson was a poet. Well, we've already talked about was a few times. So was is our linking verb. Ralph Waldo Emerson is our subject, our person. So we've got Ralph Waldo Emerson was what? A poet. A poet describes, it's renaming Ralph Waldo Emerson. So that is our predicate nominative. Poet is. Now to check. Poet was Ralph Waldo Emerson. Does that make sense? Yes, it can make sense. So we know we've got that one right. Let's try another one. Michelle is our secretary. Michelle is our secretary. Well, what is our action? What's our verb? No action in this one. But we do have a linking verb. Normally state of being, but in this case it's a linking verb, linking the parts together. So is our linking verb, putting the two pieces together. What's our subject? Our subject comes first, so that's Michelle in this sentence. Michelle is our secretary. Secretary is renaming and describing Michelle. So that makes our sentence complete. That's a complement because we're renaming our subject. Michelle is our secretary. Our secretary is Michelle. You could say it either way, so it makes sense. The pilot flew his plane over the hilltop. Okay, let's look for our verb. What kind of verb do we have? Flew. Flew isn't really connecting two parts. Flew is an action word. It's something you can do. This one's a little bit tricky. We actually have an action verb. Now, if we have an action verb, what's our subject? Who's doing the flying? The pilot. So the pilot is doing the flying. Pilot flew. What did he fly? He flew his plane. Whoa. It answered the question, what? He flew what? What kind of complement answers the question, what, for an action verb? We're not using predicate nominative this time. This time we're going back and using our direct object again. Plane is our direct object. What about over the hilltop? Over, you remember we studied this one before. Over is actually a preposition. Over the hilltop. Can your direct object ever be part of a prepositional phrase? No, it shouldn't. Over the hilltop is a prepositional phrase used to describe something. It's describing where he flew. Pilot flew plane. My uncle has been our senator. Okay, my uncle has been our senator. What is our verb? Has been. Is that an action, something you're doing? No, in this case it's not. This one is going to be a linking verb. Has been are both linking verbs here. Okay, then we need our subject. Uncle. Okay, so uncle is our subject. My uncle has been, those are both linking verbs. We have a verb phrase there. Our senator. So let's see, can we say it backwards? Senator has been my uncle. We can say it backwards. So that one needs a predicate nominative. We have a noun coming after that linking verb. So this one's a predicate nominative, a noun renaming our subject. What about my mom made a dress? What kind of verb do we have? Is it linking the two parts together, or is it an action? Made is an action, something you're doing, you're making. So my mom made a dress is actually an action verb. Who did the making? Mom. So mom made, we have a subject and an action verb. What did they make? We've got that question what again? That answers the question what for an action verb. A direct object. So we've got our direct object, mom made a dress. Let's try one more sentence. What about, are you a good student? Well, hopefully you are, but this sentence is a little bit tricky. Are you a good student? Well, in this case, what is our verb? We do have a linking verb. We've got a linking verb, but it comes first. Are comes first. Are you a good student? What is your subject? You. Okay, you is the subject. So we've got our verb, then our subject. Do we still have a predicate nominative in this case? Look closely. Is there a noun that follows the verb and renames the subject? Do I have anything after that verb that renames the subject? I do. Student is renaming you. Are you a good student? Student renames you, so student is our predicate nominative. Is it okay for both of them to be on this side of the verb? Yes, that will happen a lot in question sentences. You'll see that anytime you have an interrogative sentence, there could be a verb at the beginning or a verb phrase. So look closely because you can still have a word that renames your subject, a noun that follows the linking verb and renames your subject. You'll still have a predicate nominative there. Let's just do the rest of this page today. Just finish out this one page and take a picture of your work, upload it in our Google Classroom so I can check it and get back with you. And next time we'll be finishing up our complements, talking about our last type of complement with predicate adjectives. Good luck!